They didn't just retain Brandon Beane, they promoted him. The guy who built a roster that's $11 million over the cap before we get to extensions and restructures and all that. They're $11 million over the cap entering 2026, and yet they somehow haven't drafted any like true needle movers outside of like 2 guys in the last 4 years, right? They've drafted 2 Pro Bowlers since 2018. This is a guy who's basically set first-round picks on fire the last half decade. His last 4 first picks in order are Maxwell Hairston, who, in fairness to him, spent a lot of this year injured. Keon Coleman, who doesn't even play. They picked him at 33rd overall. Dalton Kincaid, who had major medical flags coming out of college, by the way, still took him as the first tight end off the board, and his nickname around town is literally Dalton First Aid because he's injured so much. And then Kyrie Elam, who's not even on the team anymore, right? Like, they have almost no needle movers outside of their quarterback and their running back on this team, and yet that's the guy that gets promoted while Sean McDermott gets fired. I have no idea what the Bills are doing here. I understand change was necessary. This was not the change that had to be made. Like, the exact opposite change had to be made. You keep the head coach that really coached his ass off this year, all things considered, especially on his side of the ball, and you get rid of the GM that has built a very, very middling roster over the last 4 years.
Yeah, there's 3 options here. One is you fire them both. One is you keep the coach who's won a ton of games. We'll talk about that on the other side of the intro a little bit. Or you keep the GM and you fire that coach, which I think is probably the least palatable option given, again, Mina put up a post that was like, hey, watching that Bills game yesterday, I wasn't really concerned with coaching, but I was pretty darn concerned about the roster. And I think that's the way a lot of us feel is it's Josh Allen and some other guys, right? Again, 2 Pro Bowlers out of his last, I think it's 56 draft picks total since he's picked Josh Allen. Like, since Allen got picked, 56 more draft picks, 2 Pro Bowlers. Now, Pro Bowler is not a high bar to clear these days. All Pro, that's a whole different thing. We're not even talking about that. Yes, James Cook is good. Yes, Kincaid is good when he's on the field. Knox has been decent. Some of the offensive line guys have been great, but sprinkled in there have been a lot of players like Kyrie Elam up high, who I was not a fan of when he picked him, that just have not worked out. Now, all GMs are going to have that. All GMs do not have that ratio. And to say, not only are we going to keep you, but we're going to give you more control and basically let you lord over whichever coach we replace our very successful previous coach with, is a weird pull. There's just not another way to pull it. My preference probably would have been clean house completely, start with a fresh slate, because we've seen what happens when you have a GM who is not a good drafter, who is retained and basically takes over a new coach. And to say he's the guy that gets an extra title in this particular shift, not sure I love it. In fact, I know I don't.
And I mean, we praise Beane either a year or 2 years ago for, how he approached some of his early signings, right? Like, he's a big believer in signing guys early to get ahead of the market so that they have cap flexibility. There's a whole bunch of, again, solid players that they would sign after the 3rd year in the league and get quote unquote discounts on them. And you and I praised him for doing that, right? Getting ahead of like Khalil Shakir and like Terrell Bernard and those kind of guys, Benford. But the other half of being a GM is drafting and getting like true, actual needle movers in the building. And you look at, say, Houston's roster, who are in a similar, not a cap problem, but a cap situation, right? As far as like being somewhere between like 8 to 12 million over the cap projected. You could easily get on the other side of it with a couple cuts or restructures, like not in dire straits whatsoever. But look at the amount of like true actual needle movers on Houston's roster, right? Stingley, Lassiter, Nico Collins, Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, like so many, Azeez Al-Shaair, like so many guys, Bullock, like name after name after name of Pro Bowl to all pro caliber player that are on Houston's roster. And then you compare that to what the Bills are working with. And a lot of those guys were drafted and acquired in the same 4-year time period that we're talking about. 4 years ago, Houston was awful. They were the worst team in the league, arguably, right? And now, like, they have all that talent on the roster. And when you're directly comparing Beane to his contemporaries at GM, whether it's Schneider, whether it's Snead, whether it's Caserio. There's a lot to be desired here, and signing guys to reasonable contracts after 3 years is like 40% of the job, if that. The rest of it is actually identifying talent that's worth signing in the first place. And, the fact that we knew that they had an issue at receiver and he did nothing to get Rashid Shaheed, he did nothing to get Jacoby Myers. Like, there were receivers available that probably would have helped them win this game, or at least win the division and not have to go on the road in the first place. And he neglected to do that, and was also very smug about it while neglecting to do that. So I don't know, man. There's a lot of issues in Buffalo. We'll talk about on the other side of the intro, but I am just as angry about this as Bills fans are. And believe me, Bills fans are angry. So we'll get into all that and more on the other side. Neil, please roll it. Welcome to the Bootleg Football Podcast. I'm Brett Coleman. That's EJ Snyder. We have a lot to talk about today. Coaching, hirings, and firings. A few excellent division round games. We're going to talk about where the losers go from here. We'll touch on a couple miraculous things that the winners did. And of course, Falcons fans, we heard you. We will be talking about you today. They've been very vocal in the comments because we accidentally forgot to talk about them in the coaching carousel episode. And since then, they've hired a coach. So we'll touch on Stefanski to Atlanta later. But first things first, Sean McDermott out in Buffalo. Quick reaction, EJ, out of everybody that's on the market, coaching-wise, if you had your dream candidate to come in here and rescue Brandon Beane from himself, who would it be?
That's tough. You have to have a coach. You have to have the coach and quarterback relationship, so they have to have Josh's stamp of approval. Now, I know Josh really likes Brian Daboll, and his name has certainly been surfaced. There was a reason that worked, and there were reasons that didn't work. And maybe it's better the second time around, but I have a feeling it's a little bit more like milk. And that one doesn't light me up and say, absolutely, that's the match. It's really funny because are you going to go get a defensive head coach like McDermott? And is he going to try and retain Joe Brady? Is Joe Brady even open to that? Or does he want another job? Does he want out of that organization? That's a huge question. Like, the offense went to a place with Joe Brady. A lot of Bills fans aren't happy with it. So many are looking for an offensive guy. Like, if you're really going to shake it up like this, it's going to be tough for a young first-time head coach, but that's where you're going to get the offensive talent. The Grant Udinskis of the league, who's got his second interview now with Cleveland. Nate, the passing game coordinator, whose last name I don't think I can pronounce properly for the Rams. Like, those are the guys who are next up. And I think both Stefanski and Harbaugh are probably looking around going, wait a minute, I could have had Josh Allen?
Yeah, I was going to say that immediately became the best job other than Baltimore on the market. Right. So if I'm Atlanta, I'm be like, ooh, thank God we got Stefanski to sign when we did, because now that Buffalo, that job is open, like, who wouldn't want that, right? Like, that might be the best job opening out of all of them.
Yeah, and for Stefanski, that would be the biggest head swap ever, going from Cleveland's QB situation to Josh Allen. Oh yeah, and by the way, I've got one James Cook. I love the running game. I can manage that. Josh can do Josh things, and we're gonna have some fun here. So, yeah, it's tough with McDermott. Like, McDermott coached since 2017, regular season 98-50. It's a 662 winning percentage, won almost twice as many regular season games as he lost. That's rare. That is a very successful head coach in the NFL, folks. Playoffs, he was 8-8. He was 500. That means he got there a lot. 16 playoff games for sure. 500 record. I know that doesn't feel good enough for having a guy like Josh Allen in his prime and not getting over the hump. Like, having spent a lot of time in Buffalo growing up, having family there, I get it. I get the generational angst. I do. But, he led the Bills to 13 wins in a season 3 times. He only had 2 seasons with less than double-digit wins, and there were his first 2 seasons. He won 9, almost got there, and 6 in his first 2 years. Every other year he was coach of the Bills, they had double-digit wins. This is a fan base that is used to success, and a lot of it. They just didn't climb the mountain. So the fact that that is the guy that's out leaves huge shoes for whoever comes in, because you can't take a step back. You are in the prime. You are in the middle of Josh Allen's contract window. You are in the prime of his career as a starter in the NFL. Like you said, you've got a lot of money invested. This roster is not particularly cheap. You have to do a lot with what you have, and you can't regress. That is a tough call for any, especially rookie head coach. A more veteran head coach is going to have understanding of, hey, there are ups and downs and continuing the standard. But it's still, there's no margin for learning here. You can't go 9-6 replacing McDermott. McDermott got that luxury in his first 2 years because he took over a bad Bills team. This is not a bad Bills team. So this is a really tough ask for a coach coming in. You have to win and win now. And it's not like when Gruden got to Tampa Bay and the team was completely primed and he just gave them that boost and they went to the Super Bowl. It is not that kind of situation. So I think it's trickier from the outside, and the Beane promotion just makes it even stickier.
I do understand, to your point that Dable is the leader in the clubhouse right now to get the job. But I look at the style of offense that Dable really seems to prefer. And again, it's more wide open, a lot of receivers on the field. And I almost feel like Dable enabled some of Josh's worst tendencies as far as like the hero ball and I'm going to be me and I'm going to go make a play and we're going to throw the ball all over the yard. Whereas, Brady kind of helped to bring out some of the best in Josh, which is we're going to slow the game down. We're going to run the ball a lot. We're going to be under center. And I mean, hell, even if you look at, one of the interceptions that he threw against Denver, like it was very much Josh just trying to make a play and taking a shot down the field. Like he saw half quarter, he gave a little signal to his receiver and he was like, okay, I'm going to use this in cut. I think it was from Kincaid that was pulling Hufanga down. And he's like, I got the one-on-one post against PJ Locke, the safety. He's playing the half field. I'm going to like, just look at this in cut from Kincaid. And then I'm going to like lock in on it as much as possible, knowing that I got that post one-on-one. And like, he didn't even look at it before he threw it. He just snapped and let it go. And he just shorted it. And it's like, you just got your own turnover for the first time all game, 2 plays earlier. Why are we taking a shot way down the field in that scenario? And of course it got picked off because the ball was shorted because Josh just tried to be a hero. And like, that's the kind of stuff that you really have to rein in with him. And I understand he's one of the most talented quarterbacks ever. You want him to have the freedom to be himself sometimes, but like, I feel like Dable's going to enable more of that. And like, yeah, we'll get spectacular plays out of it, but sometimes you just need to not turn the ball over 5 times and you win. So I would more lean towards Clint Kubiak out of all the available candidates, because he's going to lean more into what I think has enabled Josh to be more successful, which is, a lot more 12 personnel, condensing the formation, under center, run the ball. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't need receiving talent. Like Seattle, again, prioritized having receiving talent. They went and got Rashid Shaheed, whereas Buffalo probably should have. And, they're like, we're not content with just having JSN and Cooper Kupp. Let's go get Shaheed. But as far as like the structure of the offense, the style of the offense, like you put Josh in that kind of offense and also give him real receivers to work with. And I still think that we could potentially see an even better version of Josh with, say, Clint Kubiak there, plus an actual receiver. Whereas with Dable, I really fear that we would get a lot more of the ups and downs that would just give Bills fans anxiety. I kind of want the stability of Kubiak here.
True offensive innovation, I think, would be a great thing here with a real understanding that you have some amazing offensive pieces, starting with Josh. But you're typically going to get that from a younger guy. and it's not a sure thing. And there's so many other questions about that. Kowtowing to this GM and just saying, hey, deliver me whatever groceries you want to. Also, who are they going to bring in on the defensive side? We talked about some of the defensive struggles. We have talked about a lot of Bills' defensive struggles over and over again. You have to get that towed up because you can't be in a boat race. I don't care how good you are at calling offensive plays. You can't give up 40 every week and expect to win. So there's just a lot of moving pieces here. And I don't think outside of Stefanski, there's a kind of like home run answer. Are there good answers? And can the Bills be good with a new head coach? I think they can. Is it a narrow hole to sort of thread through? More so than a lot of, I think, other situations, even though you're starting off with a lot of talent.
Today's episode is sponsored by Factor, and if you somehow don't know who they are or what they do yet after me using them for 3 whole years, Factor ships fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals right to your doorstep, and all of the meals can be heated up in the microwave in just 2 minutes. They taste great, there's a ton of variety so you never get bored, including lean proteins, veggies, and no refined sugars or artificial sweeteners. Whatever your preferences are, they've got it. So if you want to try it out for yourself, go to factor75.com/bootleg50off. Use promo code bootleg50off, all one word, and that's going to get you 50% off and free breakfast for a year with your subscription. Again, that is code bootleg50off at factor75.com to get 50% off your order and free breakfast for a year. Thank you once again to Factor for sponsoring today's show, and with that, let's get back to it. All right, next topic on the docket. First things first. I want to apologize to Patriots fans. Not for the reason you think. I don't apologize for picking the Texans to win this game. That's not why I'm sorry. What I am sorry for is I didn't realize that I didn't read off a lot of the notes that I had about the Patriots defense when we were previewing the division round. We did a long segment on that game, and when I watched it back, I was like, oh, I actually didn't talk about Milton Williams. I didn't talk about Marcus Jones. I had notes for him. We waxed poetic about the Texans defense for like that whole segment. And I was like, oh shit, that's not how I meant for that to go. But what I don't apologize for is saying that if CJ Stroud didn't turn the ball over, Houston was going to win that game by 10 points, because I still think that was true. Unfortunately, CJ Stroud turned the ball over, and more than twice, he turned it over 4 times, and then they added another fumble on top of that. 5 turnovers. Still sort of kind of were in a position to compete for that game, even as late as like late in the third quarter. By the time we got to the fourth quarter, like there was a back-breaking drive where they ran it like 4 or 5 times in a row, burned like 6 minutes of clock, and it was over at that point. But there's almost no way to win a game when you play the first half like CJ Stroud played it. So I do want to give credit to the Patriots defense, by the way. This is not just me saying, well, like, it's all CJ Stroud's fault. Like, there is another team on the field too, and the Patriots defense played phenomenally well. Again, Marcus Jones, who I forgot to highlight, has been one of the best, not just corners, safeties, nickels, one of the best DBs and impact DBs in the NFL this season. Milton Williams, to me, is the best non-quarterback free agent signing of the season. If you look at the Patriots defensive splits in weeks 1 through 11 versus when he got hurt and then came back again, like it's a different defense when Milton Williams is on the field. Obviously, Barmore's an ass kicker. You got Gonzo, you got Joe. Like, this defense has talent. There's a reason why specifically in the second halves of games this season, when you have all their guys on the field, they're the 6th best defense by EPA per play allowed, because when Drake builds them a lead and they could just play downhill, like, they're a very, very good defense. So I want to give credit to them. Calm down, Patriots fans. You have a very good team. But at the same time, oh my God, CJ, what the fuck are you doing? Throw the ball in the dirt. Like, that was the worst game I've ever seen from a quarterback in a Texans uniform, and I watched Tom Savage play for this team. I watched Brock Osweiler. I watched Brian Hoyer. I have seen horrible quarterback play in my many, many, many years of being a Texans fan at this point. I have never seen anything that bad. So yeah, the Patriots defense played great football, which they've done a lot this year. That was horrific quarterback play. And there is no shot you can win a game no matter how good your defense is, and this defense is generational, I stand by that. You saw how good they were holding on, not allowing any points off turnovers other than that pick six, after turnover after turnover after turnover. And they forced, a fumble, 3 and out. Like, this defense played out of its mind against Drake May and the Patriots. But you still can't win a game when CJ Stroud plays like that. So I was wrong for the correct reasons and correct for the wrong reasons. And in the end, the Patriots won. They're going to Denver for the AFC Championship game. Well earned on their part. But bottom line for me, Texans going into this offseason, I can't extend CJ Stroud. I can't. There is no way you can give him a big money deal or even a normal money deal. Like, you can't do it right now.
The defense was as built for Houston. Outside of the opening drive, which was huge for New England, for Drake May to come out and hang 7 on that vaunted defense, as we've all seen through the playoffs, right away put that game on a completely different tilt. And that is Drake and Demario Davis doing it, breaking the tackle. Like, that was a massive drive for the Patriots. Outside of that, I give them the TD to Diggs, which they also worked for. That's all they gave up. They gave up the pick six.
Well, there was the shot to Booty, which Booty just he does that to Stingley. He's like the only receiver that beat Stingley deep.
But I'm not going to
done
put
it twice
that
now.
I'm not going to put that on the defense. I'm going to put that back in the Patriots' lap. When Drake throws that ball that way and Booty makes that catch in those conditions, there's nothing you can do. That was not a bust. The guy was in coverage. Booty reaches out with one hand in the sleet and pulls that in. There is no defense for that throw, and that is a plus to May and the Patriots offense. So in terms of like what the defense gave up, the opening drive TD, which was, again, that's on the Patriots for making that happen. Like, you break a tackle. That's what happens in those conditions. Good on the Patriots, tough for the Texans. They gave up the Diggs drive. That's 14 points they gave up. Other than that, pick 6, they weren't on the field for that. And the throw catch to Booty was perfect. Perfect throw, unreasonable catch. You can't expect a receiver to make that catch. Hardly ever, and Booty makes it. So the defense was as built, as you said, bailed them out time and again. But the Patriots kept it up. They did get those points in what was going to be a tight defensive game. Patriots won this game at home, and they deserve to go to Denver. So that's the Patriots coverage. We'll talk about them in the next public pod this week as well. So Patriots fans, you're getting a double dip this week, and you deserve it, quite frankly. By the way, Vrabel probably wins Coach of the Year. Like, I don't think there's
at this point, probably, yeah.
I don't think there's a way that he was already one of the top 2, and you're taking a team that was 4-13 last year with a second-year starter, completely remaking the culture and going to the conference championship game. Again, Coach of the Year is often a most improved award. You can't improve more than that. Mike Mack has done a phenomenal job in Seattle. We like the job that Kyle did with what he had to work with. We love the job
that Kyle did. And we love the job that Ben did, but
it is what it is. Vrabel's going to win it at this point. So, Patriots fans, there you go. Mea culpa for not talking about him last week. We both had notes. Neither one of us read them. And Patriots heard or didn't hear that and acted accordingly. Good for them.
Yeah, my mistake wasn't that I said that the Texans' defense was by far the best unit in this game. They were. My mistake was thinking that CJ could go like a 3-hour period without having mashed potatoes for brains. Like, I thought that somehow he would have learned from the Steelers game and just like been a normal quarterback. Just 1 week, we need you to be a normal quarterback.
Literally what we said on the pods, what I said, if CJ Stroud can just play normal, I said that in the preview pod. He just has to get out of the way of this defense and not be a net negative. And he's completely melted in the first half. Everybody saw it, but it wasn't just the first half. We said this going into this game. We said this down the stretch, that CJ had a rough year. And this is a perception problem. And it happens when a player at a high-profile position, any high-profile position, but especially quarterback, comes in and has a transcendent rookie year. It is very tough to live up to. Regression is more than natural, but now we are several years in, and nothing has been like the rookie year. So now we have to look at all the years sort of in compilation and say, well, was the rookie year the thing, or is the thing we're getting currently? the thing. Progression is not linear. We say it over and over again on this show, and it has not been for CJ. To put this into perspective, for the year, among anybody that has 200 dropbacks, so basically just starters, he was 36th in adjusted completion percentage. Let that sink in. 32 teams in the year in the league. 30th in NFL passer rating. 28th in big time throw percentage. Tied for the 5th most interceptions. 10th highest turnover worthy play percentage. This is not a quarterback who's playing well. This is a quarterback who's playing poorly, very poorly. We're talking about bottom 5, bottom 8, sometimes lower than that in important statistical categories. He was not the guy leading this team. This defense has been carrying this team. And it's a very different team without Nico Collins out there. And he was not out there. And the offense looks very different with their alpha on the field because CJ can throw it up and Nico can pay it off. And we've seen this happen before. That's all bad enough. Like, the season stats are bad enough. You get to the playoffs and you throw 4 picks basically in the first half. He's single-handedly submarine Houston's very good shot to roll towards the Super Bowl in the AFC with that performance. He actively sunk it, and that is inexcusable, and that is a real problem for Houston. Like you said, going forward, you thought you had the guy, you thought you had the good young signal caller, you thought you were in a window because of it, you thought that absolutely you were going to extend that guy, and you had one of the biggest questions in the entire game answered for years to come. And now you have to look back and say we had a fantastic rookie season, one of the top 10 rookie seasons by a quarterback ever. And then he has basically gone downhill since. Still a huge if, CJ is not the guy. The Texans are going to have to do one of the most difficult and delicate things in all of the NFL. Switching starting quarterbacks with a quick reload with a good team. As you said at the top when we were talking about the Bills roster compared to the Texans roster, this team is loaded up with high-end talent. You do not have, when you have that situation, you don't have time. You don't have the luxury of time. And bringing somebody in and getting them up to speed to make that very good roster go at the quarterback position is touchy at best. It is fraught with lots of complications and ways it can't work. So if that's the case, the Texans have a major problem.
CJ became the first player, this is from Carson Breber, by the way, on Twitter, first player since Kerry Collins in the 2000 Super Bowl to complete under 43% of his passes and throw 4+ interceptions. And he also became the first player to ever have 5 interceptions and 5 fumbles in the same postseason, and he played 2 games. EJ,
you can't get over that. Like, I don't care how good your team, I don't care how good your coach is, I don't care how good your roster is, I don't care how good your defense is. And this defense is outstanding. Like, they were still outstanding. Will Anderson is a freaking superhero. He buried Will Campbell for most of that game. Great setup. If your quarterback who touches the ball every single play plays like that, good luck. You have to get extremely lucky, and the Texans weren't that lucky, and the Patriots played well. Drake played well. He was dialed in. He settled down. Like, they ran the ball pretty darn well against what is a very difficult front to run the ball against, and their defense was in a lather. They took it to the Texans offense. So all credit to the Patriots, but Houston going into next year, you would say, oh, well, they made the playoffs. They've got this great defense. They got a great coach. They've got a something young quarterback. And you're like, oh, that could be the kicker. It feels way shakier than it should for a team in their position.
I think depending on what happens with the Colts and their quarterback situation in the offseason, like let's say the Colts get Malik Willis or something like that. I don't know how you feel comfortable putting the Texans above 3rd in this division going into 2026, no matter how much talent they have, because of the questions of quarterback. Like Trevor, very clearly, you would put ahead of CJ. Like, I don't think anybody would argue otherwise at this point. They'd be insane. And hell, you put Malik Willis in a Shane Steichen offense, I could very easily see him playing better than CJ next year. So it's like you're staring down the barrel of being the 3rd best quarterback situation, maybe even the fourth best quarterback situation in your division. We'll see what happens with Cam Ward. My God, he needs some help too. And you've got an edge rusher that you're about to pay high 40s millions to. Danielle Hunter's not exactly cheap either. You already have a $30+ million corner. Kamari Lassiter is going to have to get paid pretty soon here. Bullock is going to have to get paid pretty soon here. I can't remember when Petre's up, but like he's probably going to get a raise at some point. Who else? Oh, Nico's due for another extension because they only did like a baby extension with him while the market was resetting. So you're going to have to pay him again soon. Like this roster is about to be incredibly expensive. They're not going to be able to keep everybody together. They could do it for 2026. They can't really do it for 2027. And you might have the fourth best quarterback in the division. What do you do? I don't know. I really don't. They're very similar but different to the Bills, where I'm like, they're on the precipice of something. I don't know what yet, but they're on the precipice of something. And as a Texas fan, it makes me irrationally scared because I'm always going to look back to this game and be like, did they blow it? Did they blow the shot? Right? Because if they win that game, they're going to Denver playing against Jarrett Stidham with, again, a generational defense. Is that your one shot? It might be.
Yeah, it's tough. And it's very tough to look at a guy like Davis Mills, who was very steady in relief of CJ when he was injured, and go, boy, it's very hard to pull your starter in the first half of a playoff game. But like after 3 picks, do you just go, hey, man, we got to cool those hands off? Like Davis Mills, go out there and, throw very safe passes and hand it off a bunch and just get us steady. Let the defense like normalize this game. It was being said. I was saying it. You do wonder, and you have to wonder because that's playoff football, folks. If you get behind, that clock starts ticking and your season's over. That's it. 40 minutes later, you're done. And you have to make those decisions in real time. I realize they're difficult. You know what else is difficult? Sitting at home all off season or asking for the next 3 or 4 years, depending on how things go. Was that it? Did we not pull the cord soon enough? It's going to be really tough for the Texans, but I just, the looming questions of like watching these teams, and we watch them year round through the draft, through the summer series, through the early part of the season, through the late part of the season, in and out of the playoffs. And then we look at all of them. There's just, you feel like that a couple of years ago in the summer series, we did arrow pointing up, arrow pointing down, or arrow, neutral. With CJ's performance yesterday, there's no way to put arrow pointing up for the Texans. At best, it's arrow neutral.
You're hoping for flat. Yeah.
You're hoping for flat. And that's a rough situation for them to be in. Again, with all that talent, with a great coach, with a very solid GM. Like, it shouldn't feel like that, and it does.
Well, I need a shot, EJ. So why don't we do the Woodinville shot of the week to get me through the rest of this show without breaking something? Because we still got to talk about the Bears. Oh, buddy.
Bears. Yeah.
Again, in my apparently my brain was mashed potatoes last week too, because I completely forgot to actually post the poll for shot of the week. So everybody wins this week, EJ. We're doing participation trophy shots. That's on me. I could have sworn I posted the poll. Apparently I didn't. I promise I have the video up this week, as well as the poll for this week's nominees. So again, shots to everybody. This is my third of the day so far. Our nominees for this week, CJ West, bulldozing Sam Darnold. CJ West, show favorite, by the way. Tommy Togiai, not a traditional shot, but we do love Tommy Togiai around here. Having the grip strength, it wasn't just the retrace on the screen pass, having the grip strength to grab somebody by the jersey with one hand, bring them down. Definitely would have been a massive play if he didn't get him down. So Tommy Togiai, one of the best defensive plays of the week in a game full of great defensive plays. Puka, I can't remember the last time we nominated Puka, but typically it's because he's just an unbelievable blocker. And this time, I'm not 100% sure him lead blocking for Jordan Whittington. You'll have to watch the video that we have on the Patreon. I'm not sure that he was designed to be blocking for Jordan Whittington here, or if he just realized, like, I'm here, he has the ball, let's just play football. But he got a 2-for-1 lead blocking for Jordan Whittington, just running an under route, got an explosive play off of it. Again, it's not It's not for patrons. It's a public poll with a public video. Just click on the link in the description. Anybody can watch it. But I want you guys to evaluate that play for yourself, because I don't think they drew it up that way. It just happened because Puka's incredibly instinctive. And then our last nominee, another Ram here, Quentin Lake, punishing DeAndre Swift, attempting to hurdle at the goal line and paying for it dearly. So we got 2 Rams shot of the week nominees. Again, vote for it in the poll on the Patreon. You don't have to be a patron to vote for it, but we would appreciate if you became one. And I promise that poll is live now. That's on me for not getting that done. I don't know what happened to me, EJ. Anyway, to everybody.
Well, I'm gonna do one for Hockey's, because Hockey's made the video. So Hockey's, this one's for you. You did make the video, we did have it, and you've done a great job with it all year. So this shot's for you. Also, as sometimes happens on the Supreme Court, I'm the dissenting opinion. I submitted Austin Booker in his run stop, but my request was denied. I lost in a split decision. So
I'm not praising any Bears defensive linemen this week after that shit show of a game. Did you know they had 3? Austin wasn't one of them. He did get 1 pressure in this game. They had 3 individual Bears defensive linemen that had a 0% pressure rate. Like, are you kidding? That's embarrassing.
I will not
flat out embarrassing.
I will not accept a broad smear-based campaign against my client, who is not among those. But yes, anyways, we will get the poll up this week. Thanks, everybody, for checking it out. Thanks to Woodinville for sponsoring. And, it's been a lot of fun to continue it on through the playoffs. And there were some big ones. Again, fewer and fewer games every week, but it doesn't seem like we have any less good nominees because, man, it's a bunch of hitting in these games.
Reminder, by the way, before I forget, I don't want to go to Bears Rams without mentioning this. We still have 2 more weekends left on our Underdog Pick'em contest. We run these every single game weekend. We have 2 more to go, Championship Sunday and obviously the Super Bowl. And then we have our season-long contest running alongside that. So if you're in the top 10 right now for season-long, you are going to win a prize because we do tiered prizes for the entire top 10. But if you're in arm's reach of the top 10, you still got 2 more weekends to make it in. Top prize gets $3,000 in underdog credit. Obviously there's cascading prize structures beyond that. There's full-size bootleg helmets for the top 3, mini helmets for 4 through 10. And then, of course, the grand prize winner also gets the last available bottle of our bootleg X Woodinville single barrel select. So again, if you're in striking distance, keep on pushing through. We got 2 more weekends left of that contest. And it's not too late to enter, by the way. If you want to play in the weekly, go down to the link in the description below, enter your Underdog username, or if you're new to Underdog, use promo code BOOTLEG. You get a whole bunch of extra bonus credit using promo code BOOTLEG. And let's see what we can do in our last 2 football Sundays. All right. We just had the last Bears Sunday. And I'll admit, my initial reaction to the game was despair, because it was very, very winnable, right? Like they had the ball. If they just kick a field goal, they win. And then, they get a huge conversion. And then next thing you know, the interception happens because DJ Moore does DJ Moore things, and, Rams go right back down and win it themselves. And you're like, oh my God, that was such a winnable game. I can't believe they let that chance slip through their fingers. Like, we could have had the Bears going to the NFC Championship game in the first year of Ben Johnson, year 2 of Caleb. Like, it would have been incredible, especially for the city of Chicago. It would have been absolutely incredible. And so there was that huge twinge, knowing that, again, this was probably a missed opportunity. But I had to reset myself about an hour later and realize, like, they weren't supposed to be there anyway, right? Again, first year of Ben Johnson, year 2 of Caleb. A lot went wrong this year. Like, this is a very flawed team in a lot of ways. Like, the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed because their pass rush is awful. They had a whole bunch of injuries in the secondary. Like, they were kind of living and dying off of Nahshon Wright turnovers for a significant chunk of the game. The team itself had a horseshoe shoved up its ass for like half the season. They won a lot of games they probably shouldn't have. It's just they happen to have a completely magical being at quarterback that makes it happen. I mean, hell, we even saw that in this game, like that 4th down touchdown to Komet. Like, who does that, right? If you're looking at like likely regression to the mean, there is no way you can go 2 seasons in a row winning games like the Bears won this year. So they absolutely overperformed relative to what they actually are. And when I kind of reset myself and I realized like that there's always going to be a ceiling on what this team was, I was able to kind of appreciate how far they got in the first place, right? They were one play, a couple plays away from going to the NFC Championship game when they absolutely probably shouldn't have. So I'm very appreciative for what the Bears gave the city of Chicago this season. I know that it was not sustainable. I know that a lot of it was smoke and mirrors, but it was really, really damn fun. And, hats off to the Rams. Like, they probably are the quote-unquote better football team. So they're going to win 8 out of 10 of those. I get it. And I do think that they're going to give Seattle more problems than probably Chicago would have.
Yep.
But I will admit my first reaction to the game was like, fuck. Like, are they going to get back there? Because, I mean, you know better than anybody, Each. After decades of being a Bears fan, those opportunities are rare, and it's hard not to hurt about that one.
No, it is rare, and you do want to push it absolutely as far as you can because of that rarity. I mean, put your foot down and play with that house money. This was a house money season, and it ran out, and that's okay. And I don't feel bad about it. They took the Rams to, like you said, a couple of plays. They could have won that game. If I'd told you that in August, if I'd told Bears fans that in August, you're going to be 2 plays away from the conference championship game, they would have begged for that in August. We would have groveled at anyone's feet to get that. And we got it in spectacular fashion. It's a great year. Improvement in almost every phase of the team. They've been 4-13 for the 2 years before this. They won 11 games. They were the NFC number 2 seed. They made the playoffs. They won in the division, or they won in the wild card round. They beat Green Bay twice and were a play away from a sweep of their hated rivals. Caleb had an incredibly strong sophomore season in pretty much every measure, not just the magic plays, but in the base level of play he offers. Even Chris Collinsworth said last night, like, this is a very relaxed quarterback. He understands what he's seeing. He's commanding this offense. He knows where he needs to go with the ball. Was he perfect? Absolutely not. And that should excite Bears fans. There's more to get to his ceiling. We haven't seen it yet, which is incredible. He's the guy, no question. That was not a sure thing in the summer. Is this going to work with Ben Johnson? Can Caleb play within structure? Can he adapt to playing under center with play action? We're past that. He's that guy. He can play in all those ways. Plus, he can do all the things that only he can do. The team looks strong going forward. Look, I thought Dennis Allen with some healthy reinforcements, especially Kyler Gordon. Shout out to Kyler Gordon. This defense is completely different with Kyler in there. Coached a hell of a game. When he got his players and he was not stubborn about blitzing, he started early. He was very effective. He took Sean McVay to the wire. With that defense, with all the injuries and just lack of talent at multiple levels, that's a tremendous achievement. So shout out to Dennis Allen. Makes me feel better if he is retained as the defensive coordinator moving into next year, that with some more reinforcements, he too can be a lot better. Swift and Monungai were the only 2 teammates with over 750 yards rushing each in the NFL. What do the Bears need to do after this magical, amazing, exciting season? Again, as a guy that's covered the Bears professionally for 6 or 7 years, this was easily the most exciting team to watch. It was the hardest one to understand, but it was the most fun. And once you came to enjoy that, once you came to say, it's me, I don't get them, they're doing it, and I need to figure it out, it just became fun. It was fun for the last 7 weeks. Just really, really fun. So what do the Bears need to do going into next year to keep this momentum going? First thing, give Dan Roshar a healthy raise, and I mean like the healthiest raise you can. That guy took an offensive line that has been, let's just say, much maligned for a long time and made it a strength of the team. They played exceptionally well, even moving Tooney out to tackle and playing a guy that had 3 snaps in his professional career.
And it worked,
the guard start, and it worked great. So Dan Roshar, MVP, like, give him whatever he wants. Beg, borrow, steal, draft, pay a pass rush. I don't care, whatever it takes. Probably all of the above. They need help. They do not have pass rush right now, and they need it for that defense to work and for DA to have some flexibility with what he calls. He was forced into calling what he had to call against the second half in Green Bay and really all of the game against the Rams because he had no choice. If he didn't do that, he wasn't getting any pressure. That's a limiting factor. They need some talent to offset that. Get some run-stopping DTs in the later rounds. You got to get a fresh recycle there and be able to just fill those gaps and tackle. Reload at inside linebacker. Again, TJ Edwards, very bad injury. It's a break. He'll be back. He's a good player, but he's not keeping me from drafting anybody. Edmonds, probably overpaid for his production this year. The backups played better at some point, which is never a good sign. You need some more talent at inside linebacker. And then add a quality safety, even if you're going to bring Brisker back, even if you're going to bring Byard back. Like, neither of those guys is a sure thing health-wise or age-wise. You need some good talent in rotation, and this is a good draft to do it. But if they do that, and they bring in some interior offensive line backups as well, looks like they might already have them on the roster after yesterday. Year 2 of Ben Johnson's offense with Caleb, with Rome, with Luther, with that running back tandem, with Colston Loveland, who even went out in this game injured. The future is incredibly bright. We talk about that sort of arrow pointing up, arrow medium, or arrow down. Like, the arrow is so straight up for the Bears going into next year for multiple reasons that really matter. It's hard for me to be sad about this. Would I have liked to see them win? Yeah, I would have been at the game next week in Seattle, and it would have been fun. Full disclosure, I think the Seahawks would crush the Bears, like absolutely wipe the floor with them. They are playing at a premium level. We were going to talk about that in our next little game recap. And again, later this week as we preview that game next week with the Rams versus the Seahawks. And I'll tell you what, Seahawks fans are not happy to see McVay as compared to the Bears.
That's my point. Is like, I know that there was a ceiling on this team, and the ceiling was going into Seattle for an execution on national television. Mm-hmm. But like, out of all the teams left in the dance, the only one I give pause when saying Seattle would beat them is the Rams. Like, it's the only team left where I'm like, ooh, that could, ugh.
Yeah, Hawks fans are the same way. No, Hawks fans are the same way. They've been letting me know. They're like, man, I really wish your team won that game. And I'm like, I know you're saying that because I'm a Bears fan. I also know you're saying that because you're a Seahawks fan and you're scared of McVay. And rightfully so. He's a very scary coach. Overall, for the Bears, great season, fun season, plenty of improvement. Every box we said needed to be checked. Offensive line needs to be stabilized. We need to see if Caleb's the guy. We need to see if Ben's the guy. Check, check, check. Can they fix the defense in the offseason? I really think they can. They've got the resources to do it. I think they've got the will to do it. And would I vote against Ben adding something else to this offense? No, he's a mad scientist. He's going to take every tool in the lab. So if they can get a great playmaker and one slips, yeah, he'll pull the trigger for sure. So I can't say I've felt better about this football team, the football team that I root for, in a very long time.
Right now, if you're looking at their cap situation, they're $4 million, quote unquote, over the projected 2026 cap, but they will very easily get, I don't know, 25 to 40 million available by doing a few moves, right? Which is moving on from Tremaine. They save 15 million. I'd rather have the 15 million than Tremaine. If they trade DJ, I believe they save 16 and a half. And at this point, I don't even care if they cut DJ. Like, how many games have, or how many like crucial interceptions? Like, it's at least 3 off the top of my head that were because of DJ just not either running the correct route or quitting on a route. And you can't have that, especially in that kind of moment. I praised him for the heroics against Green Bay, and then he went right back to the type of player that made me want him out in the first place, which is just lazy. So trade DJ, you save $16.5 million. I don't even care what they get for him. I really don't. You move on from Tremaine, you get 15. The Kmet decision is interesting because you save 7.5 if you cut Kmet, but I kind of feel like Ben likes him a lot. And I do think that he likes having both him and Colston for a 12 personnel look. So I'm not sure what they're going to do there. You got a decision to make about Montez. Montez is their best pass rusher right now, but that's not saying a lot. Like, he wasn't that good this year either. So for me, it's, you can get a whole bunch of money available and see what you can do in March. But at the same time, draft pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. I don't care how many draft picks you got to use on it. Get as many pass rushers as you can, because Dennis Allen, for the second straight game, had to go super blitz heavy by his standards because he had no other way to get to the quarterback. Right. This is a 36% blitz rate. I got this from Sumer during the game. It was like mid fourth quarter. They were real time on Sumer Live calculating blitz rate. He was a 36% blitz rate. Half of their sacks were from DBs. And again, they had 3 separate defensive linemen with a 0% pressure rate. The only reason they were able to get to Stafford was because he was bringing DBs off the edge. Like the actual defensive linemen, Montez included, were not pulling their weight. So I know DA as a coach loves to just play cover 3 and play cover 1 and rush with 4 and win with 4. That was his identity in New Orleans. That's what he wants his identity to be in Chicago. He does not have the horses to do that. So use your money in free agency, use your draft picks, get the horses for him, and see what he can do in 2026. But like they can't go into next season with the same defensive personnel, or they probably won't get as far as they did this year.
Rare shout out for me for Ryan Poles. When he inherited this team, he had, I believe, 46 or 86. I can't remember. I have to look it up through the magic of editing. He had a dead cap that was massive, left over from Pace's misspending at the end, just wildly trying to save his job. He came in, he had to clean all that up. You know how much dead cap the Bears have this year?
I got the actual number.
Mm-hmm.
Their dead cap is $540,000.
Yeah, under $1 million.
That's not 6 to 8. That's the best. That was second best. Chiefs are at $215K. But like,
yeah,
what the hell?
No, this was very purposeful. You don't think that Ryan Poles sat in his office in the first year and went, "Oh my God, everybody's going to think I'm so brutal because all I have to do is cut these people."
You know what the Jets are at
for dead cap?
Yeah.
Oh
my God.
I don't.
$75 million. Oh my God.
And they're probably not done yet. They're not at a place where they're going to be at 0 next year. So again, do the hard things, make those hard choices. Poles had to make them in his first year. I know he didn't love it, but it was absolutely necessary. And he was ruthless about it. I mean, this is a guy that cut Nick Foles at a loss. It would have been cheaper to keep Nick Foles on the roster. He's like, I want no previous decisions that I have to deal with going forward. I want clean decks. And he did it. And the Bears are now in a position, like you said, where they can easily free up quite a bit of money through basic restructures. And they don't even need that much. They need to add talent. They're in a position to do it. He's kept his picks. He's kept his money. This, from a team building perspective, is a well-managed organization that way. Now, what he does with those picks, we can have our argument, but just like we said at the top of the show with Brandon Beane, there are multiple facets to being a GM. There's, are you good in free agency? Do those gambles pay off? Are you good in the draft? Are you good at the top of the draft? Are you good in the back half of the draft? Are you good with UDFAs? And then there's that contract management piece of, are we early to extensions? Are we late? Do we do a lot of things that we end up paying for in dead cap later? There's all these pieces. And right now, if you're looking at sort of just if you had one of those dashboards for like financial health, the Bears would be bright green.
All right. Last game on the docket, and then we'll get to the Falcons, I promise. Seahawks, 49ers. This one would be quick because there wasn't a whole lot that happened in that game that people didn't expect, right? We said the 49ers were out of bullets, and that's what that game looked like from the start. They fell behind 17-0 in the first quarter. They fell behind 7-0 in the first 10 seconds. Yeah. Right? You got Rashid Shaheed taking the opening kickoff. 49ers try to answer, turnover on downs. Seattle goes down, scores. Then you get a turnover. Seattle goes down, score 17-0 immediately. And the rest of the game, there wasn't a whole lot that the 49ers could do to dig out of that hole. You're looking at, I think it was 62 or 63% of every single Seattle snap this game was either quarters or quarter, half, or half, quarter. Like they were just sitting back there, rushing with 4. They had a 10% blitz rate. Like they just didn't do anything other than just Play their coverage, rally and tackle. Play their coverage, rally and tackle. You know, like their average time to pressure was 2.94 because they literally just compressed the pocket and said, "Where are you going to go, Brock? Where are you going to go?" Like, nobody's open. And if you throw it, like, they're just going to break on the ball and your receiver's going to get absolutely detonated. And that's what happened over and over and over again. Like, it was the most basic ass game plan that I think I've seen from Mike Macdonald in a long time, because that was all he needed to do. Got an early lead, played coverage, didn't get beat for big plays, rally, tackle, get off the field. They ran 24 plays offensively, Seattle did, in the second half, and 18 of them were runs. Like, that entire second half of the game could have been an email. But we all knew it going into the game. That's what it was going to be. Like, we commend the Niners for getting as far as they did. A fully healthy Niners team, I fully believe, would have a very good shot of winning that game, even on the road in Seattle. But they weren't, right? They just weren't healthy. Hell, CMC got banged up early on in the game, and then they were really screwed. So it's unfortunate the season ended that way for the Niners. As far as I'm concerned, they absolutely did as much as they possibly could with the hand they were given. I think Niners fans should be very proud of their team for winning a playoff game under those circumstances, but we all know that the road was going to end there. There was almost no way out of that.
Yeah, it was as predicted, but at the same way we talked about the Patriots versus the Texans, I want to talk about the Hawks versus the Niners. And Hawks fans have been loud about this, and they're right to do it. Shanahan is on notice that Mike Mack and the Seahawks are the power team in the division now. Like, McDonald was brought to Seattle for one reason, well, two reasons, but it's the same reason. To come up with a defense to stop McVay and Shanahan, to be able to win the division. And Shanahan, gotta say, he's pretty well got that handled. McVay, we'll see. So the Niners did not score a TD in their last two games against the Hawks. So you can say injuries, and we do all day long, but we're going to talk about some other things as well, because I know Seahawks fans are tired of hearing about 49ers injuries. So Kyle Shanahan, this is from Ben Solak. Kyle Shanahan's coached 163 games for the 49ers. His team's only been held under 7 points 4 times. 2 of the 4 have come in January 2026 at the hands of the Hawks.
I mean, again, there's talent deficiency, and then there's also just
you're getting
a belt to ass.
You're getting whooped.
Yeah.
So injuries were a huge storyline for the Niners again. We'll talk about that at the end of this segment. But beyond those, Shanahan's record when he's trailing in games is like beyond concerning. It's awful. He's terrible. So trailing by 7+ points at halftime, he is 1-29. That's 31st in the NFL. Trailing by 7 points in the fourth quarter, it's 0-38.
I'd be interested to see how many of those were Jimmy G, how many of those were Trey Lance, how many of those were
no argument.
Who was the other rando quarterback?
But when you talk about a sample size, Nick Mullins.
Nick Mullins, yeah.
Yeah, when you're talking about a sample size, again, 163 games. You're talking about 1-29 and then 0-38 in the specifics of, again, behind by 1 touchdown in the fourth quarter. Think about what the Bears did this season. Think about what the Chiefs did 2 seasons ago. You win 6 or 7 of those games in a season. He's won 1 where he's trailed at halftime by more than a touchdown in 163 games. Like, he's really good from the front. He is excellent with a lead. And again, he has a good record in San Francisco. He did an amazing job this year. But like, if you get a 1 touchdown lead on Kyle Shanahan at halftime, your chances of winning are almost 100%.
But I wonder if it's because of all the variance with this team with injuries, where, because like we see the record go up and down. Like, they have a healthy season, they go to the Super Bowl. They have an injured season, they don't. And I'm just wondering, in the healthy years, like when he actually has all of his guys, and I know, again, that's a big caveat, or even if he has half of his guys, I'm wondering how many of those games he's even trailing at halftime or in the fourth quarter, or if he's just blowing the doors off people.
And if he's not, again, this is a high variance thing. If he's got a lead, he's really good. Like, He's won all those games he's won. But again, it's one touchdown. One touchdown at halftime, and he's won 1 of 30 out of 163. Like, that's not great. So moving into next year, Niners have to find some reliable help for CMC to take some of those touches off his plate. I said in the middle of this year that the entire boat was built out of CMC. This one got me as a guy that's been watching the NFL for a long time. This is from Josh Dubois from the AP. Christian McCaffrey finished the season with 450 scrimmage touches for the 49ers. Only 3 other players aged 29 or older did that the regular season, the playoffs. Walter Payton, 476 in 1984. John Riggins, 468 in 1983. And Curtis Martin, 457 in 2004. That is a horse's club.
It does mean that he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. As you're saying.
I think that's pretty solid, but you just can't, like, they can't keep getting away with this, right? It's the mean. Like, you can't keep running a guy into the wall 500 times and expect him to hold up. He held up extremely well this year, and I know Niners fans are extremely proud of that, and CMC should be extremely proud of that. He has worked every single year, even the years he's been injured, very, very hard in the offseason, keeps his body in top shape, but that is just a workload that is unsustainable. They need to be able to split that out. They need to find another starting wide receiver. I like Ricky Pearsall, but again, he's not keeping me from drafting anybody in this receiver situation. We'll just call it the situation in San Francisco is not great. They need a TE succession plan. Don't know if Kittle's coming back. Even if he does, he's not going to be full strength at the beginning of the season. Tongas played well, but he's not George Kittle, so what are you going to do there? Because it's an important part, obviously, of Shanahan's offense. They need to add another pass rusher from the upcoming draft. I know they did in the last draft. Those guys, Michael was hurt a bunch. They didn't deliver, right? San Francisco's pass rush was bottom 3, I think, in the NFL. Certainly bottom 5.
That might even be generous. I'm not going to lie.
It's not great. And then they have to get a handle. There's all this talk about the power plant, right? I'm not going to say the power plant is or isn't, but as the 49ers, over time, you have to dig in and understand why this happens to you.
Well, I want to be clear, by the way. There have been a lot of real scientists that have come out and said that the power plant thing is bullshit.
Right, exactly.
That's not real.
What
is real is their trainer's table is always full. So you still got to figure out why it happens.
Exactly. It's not that. What is it? Because it is a factor. It is a huge factor in your team's success that has not been properly addressed because it keeps happening. And it doesn't happen to all the other teams. So forget all the noise about the power plant. Figure out why your team is always, always, always beat up. And then do something about it because your coach can coach. He is a really good coach. Give him some players. This is sort of the same but elevated discussion we had about Dennis Allen, right? He's doing the best he can without a lot of guys. And I don't think Dennis Allen is as good a coach as Shanahan is, who is a really good coach. Dennis Allen is a good coach. I think Shanahan is a great coach, but neither one of them are going to play up to their powers without the guys they need out there. It is a Jimmy's and Joe's league. You need your stars on the field, and doing yeoman's work, doing great coaching jobs, getting your team across the finish line with half your guys healthy is awesome. It's really hard. It puts years and miles on you as a coach. And when you have your guys, you win more games. Figure out how to have your guys more often.
I think the 2026 Niners are going to look different. The 2027 Niners are going to look very different, right? Because Trent's 37. 2026 is the last year of his deal. I'd be willing to bet that it's, the goodbye tour next season, whether it's for good or just for the Niners, right? Kittle is coming off an Achilles, and he's an older player. Juszczyk is an older player. CMC is an older player. Looking at the rest of the roster, like, God, how many receivers are they going to have on the roster next year that are part of this group? 3, maybe, right? Fred He's coming off a major injury, and God, if they made it one more week, he probably would have played again, which I think is a medical miracle. But again, he's one more year older, right? I look at a lot of their best players and how many of them are 30 or younger, and I think it's 2. So like they need an infusion of talent. If I was them, I'd probably plan on trading down a couple times just to accumulate more picks. And I almost kind of look at it as how the Rams a couple of years ago, when they went from fuck them picks to gimme all them picks, and they just went for volume and a shotgun approach. I need the Niners to do that because there's a lot of older players that they need to have a plan to replace long term, or at minimum just have a whole bunch of cheap talent coming in here. Trade down a couple times if you can, accumulate more picks, and just throw bodies at the problem because they ran out of bodies this year.
Yeah, and they're going to need help in areas that are really important. We talked about offensive line for other teams. They need some interior offensive line help. They've got some good young players in the secondary with Upton Stout and Siegel made an impact this year. Renardo Green played pretty well for most of the year. They, again, spent big time defensive line for young guys last year. They need those guys to develop in this defense, and they need more. Like, don't take it as me saying, oh, they're good. Those guys will just come along. Like, they need even more help because they were so bad. If they were middle of the pack with those young guys, I would feel really good about them moving into next year. They were not middle of the pack. They weren't close. So, yeah, you are going to have waves of sort of age out hitting this roster, and you're going to need to continue replacing it. They have some of those young players. We like we like a receiver they drafted, didn't play a lot this year. Again, some of those guys are going to come back. We really like Brock. We think he's a good quarterback. They don't have the same problems that the other teams that we've talked about in this show do, but they do have work to do. And they can't let up because, like you said, it's not even necessarily about next year. Might get some of those guys back at full strength next year. The year after that, what are you really doing if you don't take serious steps this year to start filling the coffers again?
All right, last topic on the docket. Falcons fans, today is your day. We're talking about you. Again, apologies for forgetting to talk about Atlanta in the coaching carousel episode. I don't know what happened there. We wrote up a whole bunch of notes about that one and then just somehow, again, similar to the Patriots thing, somehow skipped over it. No idea how that happened. But luckily for you, now we get to talk about you post-coach hiring. Kevin Stefanski off the board now. He is going to be officially the new head coach of the Falcons starting now. Terry Fontenot got fired. Raheem got fired. They completely cleaned house. Brought in Matt Ryan to be the president of football operations. McKay, I guess you could say, got benched. He's still involved in Mr. Blank's other business ventures, but is no longer involved in football, and they made that very clear. So Matt Ryan comes in to basically be the new head honcho. Kevin Stefanski, who was a name that I didn't see coming because all of my potential candidates that I was going to tie to Matt Ryan were things like Jeff Hafley with the BC connection or anybody in the Kyle Shanahan cinematic universe, right? Because of the Atlanta connection. Like, out of all the names on the board, Kevin wasn't one that I thought of, but apparently he and Ryan had a Philadelphia connection, which I wasn't aware of. So again, they knew each other. Stefanski was one of the top coaches on the market. You could say what you want about Atlanta's quarterback situation. It's more stable than Cleveland. So the job was attractive to Kevin Stefanski. And now he goes down to Atlanta to try to rebuild or at least boost a franchise that's kind of in purgatory at the moment.
The defense played a lot better. Talk about young pass rushing talent and infusion. It worked out for the Falcons this year, but Stefanski to Atlanta, the first thing that springs to mind for me is he is going to take Bijan to the moon. Mm-hmm. Bijan Robinson in Kevin Stefanski's offense is going to be pure football porn. Like, if you like run plays, you're going to see one of the most talented runners in the NFL under one of the great run scheme minds in the NFL. Again, we're talking about a 2-time coach of the year who was saddled with an impossible quarterback situation in Cleveland. A lot of this does not fall on his plate. I'm sure Cleveland fans will say some of it does, and they might be right, but you're coming to a completely different situation, and you have, again, one of the most talented pieces in one of the areas that you coach the best. That's a great situation for Atlanta. They should be excited about the stability, about the ability. And again, the defensive side of the ball had a nice rise this year. I think this is an absolute home run hire for the Falcons.
I believe they're also retaining Jeff Ulbrich too. At least that's the plan, which to me, no matter who they hired for head coach, I wanted them to keep Ulbrich. He did a phenomenal job this year. And if you could just basically say, Jeff, the defense is yours, like that's your domain. I'm gonna focus, my efforts on the offense, and in particular trying to get Michael Penix to be what we need him to be, because they're all in on him, right? Like the previous regime didn't get fired because of the record. They got fired because of how they handled the quarterback situation, with the whole like signing Cousins without doing the physical and then realizing he was still hurt, and then not panic drafting Penix, but kind of panic drafting Penix. Like that's why they got fired. It's because of how they handled all that. But Stefanski coming in, they gave him that situation to try to clean up. So that is his job, is to make Michael Penix work. And I think Matt Ryan's also going to have a big hand in that as well. Like they're going to combine their forces and make Michael Penix the best possible version of Michael Penix, while Jeff Ulbrich just kind of does what he does on defense, because that was the only thing that really consistently worked for them.
So if you're a Falcons fan, I think, again, as we're talking about arrow pointing up, arrow pointing even, or arrow pointing down, this is an arrow pointing up move for the Falcons. They needed to move off, again, what they were doing. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you're getting, and it was not working. It was middle of the road, and Arthur Blank doesn't want to be middle of the road. He is willing to make serious changes. He brings in Matt Ryan, gives him a new title as president of football operations, and all the other changes that follow. Stefanski was not an easy get. He had his choice. He could have gone to multiple situations. This was, you're going to win a bidding war. I thought you'd appreciate this. Blank had him over to the house and cooked steaks, and Blank cooked them. They ate, and he offered him the job. So I thought, well, there's a recruiting pitch that would get straight to Brett Coleman's heart. Ribeyes cooked by an NFL owner, and then you get offered a
man
job.
after my own heart.
Like that is Coleman recruiting 101, but it works. Stefanski's in Atlanta, and I think it's a good move for the Falcons for sure.
By the way, it just came through 5 hours ago. I didn't even see it. Ulbrich got a new 3-year deal to stay in Atlanta. So
yeah, and continuity there is probably the most important thing with all those young players. And again, you give somebody the groceries and say, make the meal, and the meal comes out, you want to keep that person involved, because there's a lot of times coaches get what they ask for or what they say they need, and it doesn't go that way. It goes the other way. They either stay the same or they regress, and that's when you sort of blow the whole thing up. If somebody says, this is what I need to make it work, you deliver those things and they make it work, you want to keep that person in the building.
We also have more breaking news, EJ, by the way.
We can't do this without that happening. This is basically what causes it. I'm sure of it at this point.
The new offensive coordinator in Detroit is Drew Petzing.
Okay.
Yeah. I
wonder if they're going to get whelmed. I wonder if they're going to get a Cardinals quote that's like JSN.
When Waldron went to Chicago.
When their OC left, and they're like, so what do you think? And he was like, and the silence was just
the best
deafening.
Is this live?
Yeah, right. He's just like, and they're going to be asking, national media is going to be going to people like McBride and, everybody else in that offense, and like, hey, so what do you think about this? And they're all going to be like,
well, Trey's going to be like, oh, it's great for Sam Laporta.
Yeah, right.
It's awesome for him. Everybody else,
good luck to Detroit. Like, and players talk. Like, this is one of the things that I think people know, but they sort of lose track of, is many of these guys have been on other teams. They're college teammates with them. They're all-star games with them, whatever. Like, you think that Jahmyr Gibbs isn't reaching out going, so what does this mean for me? Of course he is. And if he reaches out to Cardinals, he knows they're probably not going to have the most glowing things to say about Petzing, because, again, Petzing was one of those guys that started strong and then went stale, and just like Bobby Slowick, like, got moved on from, and now he enters a different situation where he's going to be looked at as the savior, right? He's going to have to bring the offense back, which is, I think, an unfair pair of shoes to fill when you're talking about bringing it back to the level of a guy like Ben Johnson, right? They thought, oh, again, got continuity. We had our pick. This is what we did. First half of the year looked pretty good. Second half of the year, not so good. They get moved on from in terms of the coordinators. Now you have a new one. Now it's like, can you do it? Can you be as good as Ben Johnson was after 3 years? That's a tall ask for anybody. Petzing's got his work cut out for him.
Which I will say this. A couple of years ago, the run game was the only thing that we really praised about Arizona and their offense, but I don't know. So we'll see.
We'll see.
I guess. We'll see. Sorry, Lions fans. I know you're hoping for more optimism, but go talk to your resident Cardinals fan that's near you if you have any, and they will have strong opinions on this one. What it does tell me, though, is that Mike McDaniel he's got something else cooking. Because if they could have hired McDaniel, they would have.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is that he's got cooking. Maybe it's the Chargers job.
I was going to say, if I'm looking at the jobs that are left, like if I'm not getting a head coaching job, which he might, he very well might. There are a lot of head coaching openings, and I think what Mike did in the second half of the season after the sort of all hands are lost first half of the season for the Dolphins, where everything looked really dire and everybody getting cleaned out of that building was, I'll say, a certainty. That's the way it was being talked about for sure. What he was able to do down the stretch was pretty darn impressive. Again, a lot of people didn't watch it, but people around the league took notice. So I think he could get a head coaching job. But if I'm just looking at OC jobs or OC openings, yeah, I kind of want to go work with the Chargers with 2 healthy tackles and Justin Herbert and see what I can do.
All right. Loaded show today, but hopefully you guys enjoyed watching and listening wherever you happen to be watching and listening. Want to thank all of our executive producers over on the Patreon: Fitzy, Connor, Liam, Mike, Jack, Major, Owen, Spencer, Consti, and Iken. Once again, thank you to all of you for your support. Thank you to all of our other patrons that continue to watch all of our patron-only episodes that we put on the Patreon this season. We have another one coming out fairly soon. We don't know what the topic's going to be yet because we haven't written it, but it's going to be something off-season related, whether it's draft or free agency. I don't know. Well, you'll find out when we post it. But once again, thank you to all of our patrons that support the show and watch those patron-only content. Yeah, we will see you guys later on this week, previewing Conference Championship weekend. And then EJ's got to catch a flight to go to the Shrine Bowl in Dallas. So we'll see you in a few days, and until then.